I am Jesse Averill, and this is my video presentation on the autobiography Me by Elton John. From his flashy style to his unique music, Elton John, who was known for pushing boundaries, became one of the most influential musical artists of his era. John's youth. Elton John was born March 25th, 1947, currently 77 years old, in Pinner, England. His parents were Sheila Fairbrother and Stanley Dwight. His parents were very strict, and they only accepted classical music as a form of study. But they also thought rock and roll was demonic and evil, so Elton John wasn't really allowed to experience that growing up. He attended Pinner Wood Junior School, Rediford School, and the Royal Academy of Music, which grew his love for music, and that's also where he discovered rock and roll. He was greatly influenced by bands such as the Beatles, Elvis Presley, and the Beach Boys. This quote explains how the Beatles kind of influenced Elton John to make music that he resonated with and music that was unique to him. This is what the world was like when Elton John was making music. This first quote kind of explains how the changing social norms of everything allowed Elton John to be more expressive in his music. This second quote kind of explains how Elton John was able to deal with the acceptance of his homosexuality. Elton John has an extremely outgoing personality. He is very flashy. He related to other people through his music. He had a close relationship with his songwriter partner Bernie Taupin. His outgoing personality led him to be the iconic singer he was. His flashy outfits and crazy onstage performances defined him. This first quote captures John's intention to stand out with his flamboyant appearance and his theatrical presence, which became a hallmark in his career. This second quote shows how Elton John truly thrived off being the center of attention. Here are some obstacles Elton John faced throughout his career. During the 70s and 80s, John battled with drug and alcohol abuse, and this affected his professional career. It wasn't until he had a moment of clarity realizing that these substances were an addiction and that they affected his day-to-day life that he decided to get help. Another hardship he faced was his sexuality. He struggled to accept his sexuality his whole life growing up. John ultimately came to terms with his sexuality in 1988 after years of self-repression. These are some influential figures in Elton John's career, starting with Bernie Taupin. Bernie Taupin was one of Elton John's best friends and musical writers. They first met through mutual contact at Liberty Records, and since then they worked on countless hits together such as Rocket Man, Tiny Dancer, and Your Song. He inspired John to keep writing music through thick and thin, and without Bernie Taupin, Elton John wouldn't be where he is today. Next up is Renee Blauel. Blauel was John's first love. They got engaged and even almost married. Blauel was influential to John because he didn't understand his sexuality at the time. She helped him realize he was gay. Lastly, we have John Reid. John Reid was one of Elton John's first producers. He truly believed in Elton John, and even though they didn't always get along, he had in mind what's best for him all the time. He helped Elton John understand the music industry and even helped get his music the publicity it deserved. One influential moment in Elton John's career is the release of his album Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. This album is often referred to as his rise to fame. The success of this album inspired John to keep making music and hold on to the unique aspects that make him who he is. Lasting impacts. Elton John has had lasting impacts on multiple different things throughout his career, one of them being his effect on the music industry. This first quote elaborates on how Elton John's music reshaped the artistic landscape of music. He added a new sense of creativity that previously was unheard of in the music industry. He also had a large impact on the LGBTQ+ community. People of the LGBTQ+ community often feel alone and rejected from society. When Elton John came out as gay, he gave the LGBTQ+ community something to be proud of. Since then, this community has grown measurably and has become far more accepted. From reading Elton John's autobiography, I've learned that the path to success isn't always clear, and there's ups and downs, but everything that happens for a reason. And you might not know it at the time, but you'll always end up where you want to be in the end. Here's my works cited page. I cited history.com, audiolever.com, and obviously the autobiography.